Hello and welcome back to the Career Cravings podcast. It is I, your host, Irina, and I am so excited to dive into today's episode because I posted about this topic and it is all about the things we should lie about in a job interview. And I always say there are things that you should never, ever lie about, but then there's other things that if you are too honest about, you're just not going to get the job. So today I'm going to break that down more deeply because this was a very requested topic on social media. So I thought, why not break this down, give you actual tools and scripts for each one of these so that you can go into your interviews as prepared as humanly possible. And before we dive into today's episode, I want to personally invite you to something really special. I am hosting a free live masterclass on July 23rd. All about the job search strategies that are working today. So if you are currently looking for your next role, you want to land it this summer before fall, then this is your moment. This is the last time I'm hosting this free job search masterclass this year because the rest of the year, there are a lot of events planned all around the book launch. So if you're like, Irina, yes, I need more support. I've tried it on my own. I would love to understand the strategy that's working from a resume perspective, interview perspective. Freaking amazing. That's exactly what I'm going to be sharing in this 90-minute workshop. It is absolutely free for you to sign up, and the link is in the show notes. I will be keeping it more intimate this time, so make sure there are limited spots. Make sure you save your seat. And I'm also going to be answering your job search questions at the end, like I always do. It is always a vibe. The community comes together. The chat is always on fire. And this is my most requested training. So if you're looking for your next role and you're loving these job search tips, then amazing. But inside the masterclass, I'm going to walk you through the actual framework that I teach my clients. So I cannot wait to see you there on July 23rd. Hey, it's Irina Pozan, and welcome back to the Career Cravings podcast. This podcast has a simple mission. It's to help ambitious professionals like you build the career and life that you've been craving. Over the past 15 years, I've worked as an HR leader, designed hiring systems, led recruitment teams, and I've sat on the other side of the hiring table. I've seen what works in today's job market, what doesn't, and what separates those good candidates from the ones that actually land their dream roles. Now I'm bringing everything I've learned straight to you. Each episode is packed with actionable insights and tools to help you land your dream role sooner. Now let's dive in. Okay, so let's dive into today's episode. I know this is a controversial one, and I got some comments of people being like, oh, okay, well, you want me to lie now? And I'm like, this is about strategy. It's about actually knowing how to answer questions in a way where you're not being too honest, too vulnerable. You're sharing the right level of information that's actually going to get you hired, because the point of the job interview, the goal is always to be either invited to the next interview or closing the offer so you can have as many options as possible. And at that point, generating the most options for you. I am huge on authenticity. I think authenticity is your superpower. But I know from coaching hundreds of people on their interviews that often we're sharing way too much information that is at a detriment to the interview. So then what you actually hear is like, okay, great. Well, we'll talk to the team and we'll get back to you. It's like, no, you want them to be super fired up, super excited about continuing the conversation with you so that you have as many options as humanly possible. And especially in today's market where there are fewer interviews than there used to be, right? People are applying more, hearing back less. This means you need to make the most of those opportunities. So I know that you can tell your full story with authenticity, which is amazing, but you need to actually know what to say, what not to say, so you can move forward. And that's what we're covering today. I hope that explains that, like, before you go on a spiral about thinking I'm telling you to become some kind of manipulative liar. That's not the case. Okay, so now that we cleared that up, let's get into the actual lies themselves. These are the 6 areas where I don't want you to be fully honest, and I'm going to share what you need to do instead. Okay, so the first one is all about salary. So this one gets people in trouble the fastest. And often people are asking questions in interviews like, how much are you currently making? And the problem with this is that it actually does not matter. And it is not even legal in most places to ask what you're currently making. Because if you think about this question and the reason why they're asking, they want to know how low they can make you an offer that you would accept, right? And this is irrelevant because the next job that you get might have a completely different level of responsibilities, a completely different skill set that's needed for the role. So it really doesn't matter what you're making today. Now, the real question that matters is, what is the salary that you would accept an offer for? What would you be excited to accept an offer for? And this really does matter because you don't want to have a bunch of conversations with hiring managers only to get to the final stage and, not be aligned on that offer. So salary is really, really important, but it does not matter what you are currently making today. So I never want you going into an interview and actually answering that question of like, oh yeah, today I make 65,000 when you're really going for a role at the next level. Maybe it's a leadership role and now you're looking for 105,000. So there have been multiple times in my own career where I've left an organization to double my salary. Why was I able to double my salary? Because they didn't know what my actual salary was because it was none of their business. Okay. And many of my clients also get roles for 43%. I recently posted someone getting like a 43% offer. Some people are getting multiple offers. Some people are going from like literally a salary of 0 to a 6-figure offer. So it really doesn't matter. And if you're sitting there thinking, no, Irita, it does. I really, if they ask me, I really need to tell them how much I'm making. What if you're unemployed and you're making 0? Or what if the last role you had was a much more junior role? What if the industry is different? So literally, I need you to know, just erase it from your mind that if they ask you this question, you need to answer honestly. And I want you instead instantly to redirect to the actual question that matters, which is, what is the salary that you would accept for this role? What does that range look like? And then I want you to answer that question because that's not an illegal question, right? That actually matters and it meets your goal for the conversation. I've also had clients that were CHROs that wanted to take a consulting role and step back into less responsibility. So are they going to share their, salary of $300K and expect for a consulting role for them to match that just because that's what they're earning today? No, because it's a different context. It's a different role. It's a different set of responsibilities. I want you to think about instead for your salary response, think about the range that you would A, accept an offer with, and then B, be really excited about. So maybe that ranges from 80 to 120. Those are the types of numbers that I want you to share. So instead of focusing on your past, what you used to earn, what you currently earn, you're going to focus on the future, what you are excited about earning in this role based on their title, their industry, their level of responsibility, and realistically, what is aligned for you in your next chapter. Because negotiating something looking backwards doesn't make sense. You want to think of your future and where you're going and the salary you'd expect in that role. Okay? So you're going to lie about your salary. That's just what it is. Number 2, your boss. You're going to lie about your boss. You are going to lie about your boss. Now, your current boss, it literally also doesn't matter what they are like. The new company is not hiring your old boss. They're hiring you. All they care about is you. Now, why are they asking this question? Well, they're asking for a very good reason. They want to know how well you got along with your leader because the past is a really good predictor of how you are going to get along with the next leader, right? So with that being said, they essentially want to know you got along super well, that you didn't have conflict, that you're able to take coaching and feedback. My husband, actually, he hires all the time for the most senior levels in his organization. And when he does this, one of the things he's looking for is how coachable are you? So he'll ask questions about their past boss or give feedback on the call to try to understand how well you accept that feedback, right? Because if you are someone who is like venting or saying anything negative about anyone else, that shows more negatively on you than it does the actual person who you're saying anything negative about, okay? So with your boss, I want it to be neutral. Even if you have the worst boss in the world, even if you didn't get along, even if you're looking for a new role because your boss is terrible, that literally doesn't matter. None of that you are going to be sharing with the organization Because again, it is none of their business and it doesn't matter. They're not hiring your old boss. They're not doing a reference check on your old boss. They care about hiring you. That's why they're speaking to you. So the interview is not the place to say anything negative about your boss. Any questions that have to do with your working relationship, your response is going to sound a lot like, I've had the opportunity to work with a number of leaders at my current organization or a number of leaders in my career with all different personalities. And I am one of those people that's like a chameleon. I'm able to get along with everyone. So if you're asked about conflict or working with people or what your current boss is like, even if they're terrible, you're not going to say even one negative word about them, because saying anything negative about them says more about you than it does them. And in the interview, I want you to come off as positive, professional, easy to work with, easy to get along with. These are the type of people that get hired instead of those that say anything negative about anyone else. Got it? All right, cool. So you're lying about your salary. You're lying about your boss, if there's anything to lie about. Now, what I will say before we move off of this second lie, being your leader, that you might have an incredible leader where they are like a mentor. And that was like my last boss. I had a CHRO that he was just the best boss I could ever ask for. And I'm so grateful. And it's what I loved most about that role. In that case, if it's something super positive, then include it in your answer. People will love to hear you've had a positive, great working relationship with someone. And the thing is, I don't want you to lie and make things up. So if that was not your experience, your boss wasn't the best, then I don't want you to say that they were. That is not what I'm talking about. I'm just saying you're going to omit the things that don't matter. Anything that could be looked at like a red flag or you didn't have a great working relationship, we're going to skip all that. And we're only going to focus on the good. So if you had a boss who was good and bad, like most people, right? There's great things about certain people and then there's like terrible things about certain people. And what I want you to do is almost like put on your rose-colored glasses and see the best in that person in that moment. So for example, they could have done things that completely trigger you, annoy you, or you didn't love. But then there were other things that were great. Like they supported you at times, they had your back at other times. Those are the times I want you to think about and be prepared for when you're asked about the leadership that you've worked with. And this is going to get you a lot further in interviews than actually spewing out whatever the truth was, especially when there were like things that weren't great, because that's just the nature of working with people, right? Sometimes it's hard, sometimes it's easy. There are good days, there are bad days. I want you to put on your rose-colored glasses and think about the good times only. Okay, we're going into lie number 3, which is why you're leaving. Why are you leaving this organization? Now, if you're currently working, of course, there are some real reasons why you'd prefer not to work there. Of course, obviously, you have applied for a new role, okay? Now, there might be negative reasons why you're leaving. Maybe you're burned out, you're underpaid, you're not respected, something happened. You have outgrown the role, whatever those things are, I want you to know they're valid, but it's not what you lead with. That's not what you're sharing, okay? You lead with something positive. So you're going to see a theme here. So this is what I call push and pull. So there are push reasons and there are pull reasons. Push reasons are things that are pushing you out of the company, okay? So those could be those things like your pay, your boss, maybe you don't like what you're working on, maybe you've been there for 5 years, you've outgrown it, whatever it is, the thing that's getting you to leave, that is never what we focus on in our interview response. I never want you to say this. What I would want you to do instead is focus on the pull. This is so much more positive, so much more attractive in interviews, okay? So what is a pull? The pull is what is pulling you to the next opportunity. Maybe it is the pull of growth. Maybe you're applying to an organization that is, a top employer or a really recognized brand that you're excited about. So I want you to genuinely, this isn't about lying, okay? It's about omitting the things that are red flags. There's a difference. I want you to think about what's pulling you to your next opportunity. And then I want you to frame it in that positive light when you're asked about why are you leaving. I don't want you to include any of the negative stuff, even if you are talking about the fact that, you are no longer at that company. Maybe you've been laid off. Okay, cool. That's the truth of what happened. You're going to, at some point, be talking about that. But think about the pull. Okay, now that you have been laid off, you're obviously looking for your next most aligned role, not just any role. And with that, what is pulling you towards this specific company? Why are you applying there? Tell them about the pull, not the push. Got it? Okay, cool. So the next thing that you are going to lie about is your 5-year plan. So, you know that question where they're like, hey, where do you see yourself in 5 years? This is a trap. Okay, this is a trap that I've been trapped in. I remember I had a boss. I was not in an interview, so I will say that. But it was my performance review, and it was my first performance review at this company that I loved. And my boss, so I was like 5 years into my career. My boss had worked at this company for like 25 years, and she was one level up from me, right? This is like a question she was forced to ask. I actually don't think she cared at all. But she asked me, where do you see yourself in 5 years? I want to support your growth and your development. And I was like, oh, okay. And I shared that I'd love to lead a bigger team, which signaled to her that I wanted a promotion, which signaled to her a threat that I wanted her job. She almost fell out of her chair and she goes, Irina, it took me like 20 years to get this job. So I wouldn't be looking to get promoted in the next 5 years. I was like, okay, cool. And I just knew I shouldn't speak to her about my career desires transparently anymore. And I should have lied in that moment. Now, long story short, I was actually promoted and she was super bitter about it and we became peers. So there was that. But the reason I tell you this is because if you transparently in a job interview focus on a different role, they're going to also feel threatened about that. They might feel like, my seat is still warm. I am the leader in this role. This person's coming to take my job. Or even worse, they'll think that after you get the job, you won't be focused on it. You'll be looking to apply for the next role, which we never want them to feel like you are not, fully focused on the role that is in front of you. So what I want you to do with this specific question is think about the growth in the role. So for example, you want to continue to grow in the role. You want to develop, you want to master it. So you could say something like, I am really excited about this specific opportunity. I'm excited about taking the next couple of years to grow within this role, to master it, and then see what opportunities make sense after that. But my primary focus right now is to grow in this specific role. And you talk about the excitement for this role. Because as soon as you start talking about, like I remember interviewing someone and she was like, I want to be a manager. I want to do this. I want to do that. I started thinking in my head, I wasn't threatened. I was like, okay, cool. I love that you love to grow. I love to grow too. But I was worried, what if I can't promote this person? What if I don't have that role on my team? What if I have someone in that role already? So I can't really hire this person and pretend like, I know for sure they're going to get that next job. You have to think of where the hiring manager is at the time you're having this conversation mentally. And mentally, where they are is actually thinking about the fact that they need to fill this specific role. They're not thinking about 5 years down the line. They're literally thinking about filling this role. So you need to make them confident that it's this specific role you're interviewing for that you want to stay in for a really long time. Does that make sense? Okay, let me know in the comments if that's resonating with you. So it's not a lie. You're not hiding the fact that you probably do want to be promoted, but you're focusing on the present because that is the information they need to make a hiring decision at this time. Cool. So remember, this one isn't about sharing your life plan. It's not sharing about how, you want to start a business. It's not about how you want to be promoted. They're trying to assess, are you looking to stay, grow, and contribute here? Yes or no? Are you committed to that? Make sure they understand that before sharing any other future career aspirations. Okay, cool. Moving on to line number 5. Are you interviewing anywhere else? This one is a straight up lie. Okay, so this one, you need to be desirable. Everyone wants what they don't have. If you say, no, the job market really sucks. I'm not interviewing anywhere else because it's been really hard to hear back from anyone, then it's going to be not likely that they feel pressure to get back to you soon and invite you to the next interview, or they're not going to feel the pressure of losing you potentially and wanting to move forward with an offer sooner. So I don't want you to shoot yourself in the foot here. I want you to be able to show up as a desirable candidate that people actually want. So I don't want lies to come out of like your lips per se, but I definitely don't want the answer to be, no, I'm not interviewing anywhere else. If that is your truth, we're going to find a different way to spin it. Okay. So the answer is yes. The answer is yes, I am considering other opportunities and I'm looking for the best fit. Now, that being said, I'm most excited about this opportunity right here. So you're going to focus on the present and the role that you have in front of you. Now, a line that I always love to coach my clients to also say is the fact that if anything changes, you believe in transparency and you're going to get back to them and let them know that you've received an offer, for example. So the reason I personally, when I was a recruiter, used to love asking this question, are you interviewing anywhere else? Because I hated the moment where I reach out to a candidate and I'm so excited to extend an offer to them. I'm like, finally, I found the right person. And I go reach out to them and they're like, oh, sorry, I accepted another role. And I'm like, what? Like, why didn't you tell me? I thought we had something here, right? So I want you to also think about, why are they asking this question? Well, they're straight up asking because they don't want to lose you as a candidate. They're not trying to see how not desirable you are. They're really trying to see like, okay, are you in a final interview with someone else? Like if I don't move you forward today, does that mean I'm going to lose you? They don't want to waste time with people that have other, offers that they're going to accept, right? Because candidates, believe it or not, they ghost recruiters and companies all the time as well. They end up getting other offers and then they don't respond back. And, this happens a lot. So the recruiter is asking because they want to save themselves from the pain of this potentially happening. So they just want to know, like, are you interviewing with other companies right now? Why or why not? So your answer is yes, because you are desirable. And the more desirable you can show up in that interview, the more you're going to get people that are excited about hiring you. And that's always what we want. Okay, cool. So that was number 5. Are you interviewing with any other companies? Okay, now the last one, this one's a bonus. Number 6 is all about your title and what you do. So now, if you were to receive the offer, I want you to keep in mind that they will fact check you and they will likely be doing a reference check, call your organization, find out what your title really was and what your level of responsibility really was. And keep in mind that when you apply, you for sure are going to be looked up on LinkedIn as well to see what your past titles were, what your current title is. So this one is not about actually straight up lying. Again, that there's a theme here. I'm not condoning straight up lying in interviews, but omitting the parts that don't make sense and then playing up the parts that are most aligned. So you might be going for a role that is slightly different than the one you had before. So for example, you might be a recruiter, but you're moving into a pure HR role, or you might have been a developer and now you want to become a project manager, right? Or you might just be getting a more senior title than you've had before. So when you're describing your role, you're not lying about the title, but you are picking out the most aligned parts of what you did so that you can explain that in a way where when the recruiter or hiring manager listen to what you've done in the past, they can connect the dots about their role and your role. So for example, I'll give you my own personal example. When I was moving into my director of talent management role, I thought about ahead of that interview, like I wasn't going to lie about my title. I was a senior manager and I was going for a director role. So that means I was going for a level up in responsibility that I've never had before. And instead of saying, oh yeah, I was the director, like that wasn't going to be something that I ever did. That would never work and I wouldn't get the job. That's a straight up lie. That's not authentically aligned with who I am. And instead, what I did was focus on the points that are most aligned between what I was doing and what they're going to want me to do in their role. So here's what I mean. I talked about leadership more than anything because yes, as a senior manager, I had a level of responsibility. I was not responsible for budget, for example, but I was responsible for leadership. So I was talking about the leadership aspects that were aligned between my current role and the future role that I wanted. Also, transparently, my role had a lot of different elements in it. I was a business partner to clients. I also led a team. I did a little bit of this. I did a little bit of that. I did succession planning. I did building programs for engagement and retention. I did a little bit of hiring. There was like a lot of things that I did every day. But in the interview, I wasn't going to talk about the things that don't matter. I was only going to focus on engagement, retention, and hiring and building programs because those are the things that I knew in the next role they wanted me to have. So you see how it's not a lie about the title. It's about aligning the level of responsibility to the role that you're interviewing for to have the best absolute chances of making a clear case of why you are ready for this next role. Okay, so those were the 6 lies. I hope that that was super, super clear in terms of what I want you to reframe. So what I want to leave you with is that you're not lying to manipulate. You're positioning yourself to actually win the interview and move forward to the next stage. Because the interview process, unfortunately, you only have a limited amount of minutes with them, right? Or a certain number of hours in the total hiring process. And it's not rewarding honesty. The hiring process isn't built to reward the most honest person. It's designed to find the person that can do the job the best, that is most aligned with the role. And the candidates that can understand that and then reframe their interview questions accordingly, those are the ones that get multiple job offers, which is the whole point. And this is why you see a lot of the clients that come out of the offer room, my signature coaching program, get multiple offers in weeks, right? And this is because they know how to position themselves while still talking authentically about their experiences. So again, if you are looking for your next role, the best way that I could support you is inside of my free masterclass, which is coming up this month on July 23rd. Swipe up, save your seat. In that session, I am sharing live interview techniques that are working in 2026 specifically, interview tips on how to show up. So a lot more of what we've covered today, but the actual strategy that gets you hired in weeks, not months, in today's job market specifically. I cannot wait to see you there. Swipe up, save your seat, and I will see you in the next episode. Hey, before you go, if you've enjoyed listening to today's show, I would love your support. Please take a moment to leave a review anywhere where you listen to podcasts. And here's the exciting part. I'm running a special contest and giving away a one-on-one session with yours truly. All you have to do is leave a review, take a screenshot, and send it to me in my DMs. All of my contact info is in the show notes. I appreciate you so much, and I cannot wait to build the career and life that you've been craving together. See you next week.